So you got these two marginalized groups of people that had to, I mean, like, literally die for their rights. For their rights. That's already guaranteed by the Constitution.
Votes for Biden, or in some cases for the Democratic Party, which left the Republicans wanting a do-over. Hello friends, Angel with Unbasic Black here, and today we are talking about voter suppression laws. So what got this all started was I happened to be having lunch one day and the news was playing in the background. I look over and I see a screen that says, "Unhinged Biden goes on a tirade." So I snapped a picture of it, and that's what kicked off this discussion.
I watched the video. It was about 24, 27 minutes. And nowhere in that did I hear a baffling tirade. What I heard was, we need to stop these 17 states from enacting these laws.
So if you watched Biden's speech regarding voter suppression laws, you will see that it was far from a tirade. What I'm about to do would be considered a tirade. But what he did was nowhere near a tirade, right?
We need to stop these states from enacting laws that are basically voter suppression. He spoke calmly, about like I'm speaking to you, making very valid points about the laws making it harder for, and it seemed to be geared towards a certain group of people. So particularly black people or poor people. So people who need the most change to happen in our society. The laws that are being enacted or trying to be enacted are geared to keep them, because there's more of them than there are of people who are well-to-do. So the laws are geared to keep people from being able to get to the polls on time, giving them extra things that they need to do to prove who they are. So in some cases, it's not just a driver's license, it's something else. But it's weird because one of the laws enacted in, I don't know which state, but there's a law enacted where a person can use their gun license as proof of who they are, but a college student with a picture ID of their college campus ID is not fit for, is not suitable proof of who they are.
What exactly is all the fuss, right? What are the voter, I have my notes down here. So what are the voter suppression laws that, you know, people have been talking about? So from what I have seen, there are 17 states that have enacted basically about 28 new laws designed to address voting issues, right? Most of the laws are very suppressive in nature, which is why we call them voter suppression laws. From the list that I saw of these 28 different new laws spread out amongst 17 states, a large majority of them, well, about half and half, about half of them was in relation to absentee voting. And as you know, because of the pandemic last year, a large majority of individuals opted to complete their ballots via absentee voting. That resulted in a huge margin in some states in terms of voter turnout. It also accounted for a lot of votes for Biden, or in some cases for the Democratic Party, which left the Republicans wanting a do-over. It left the Republicans wanting a do-over.
Some of the laws enacted limit polling times, like make it from let's say 9 to 3 or some such. Or they're trying to keep people who, because there's something called what did he say? I can't remember the terminology for it, but basically it's during voting season, people who go to church on Sundays, people who go to church on Sundays will go to vote after they get out of church. So on Sundays they're wanting the polls to close before 1 o'clock. Anybody who's been to a black church know that they don't get out till 1:32, and then they gotta talk, and then they gotta get in their cars and go to where they're going, preferably to get something to eat and go to corral, or go home, because if they're like my grandma, she had already cooked dinner that morning and she just got to heat it up when she gets home. So those kind of things are being enacted or going through the state legislatures to keep people from being able to vote, or make it harder for people to vote. So and interesting that they call it that Fox News calls it a tirade, because throughout the speech, though, even though like in some cases the laws have already been passed, but even though that's the case, Biden still said, we'll act within the confines of the law, but we're going to work hard to get these laws changed. So do what you got to do to be able to vote, and then as you're voting, make sure that you're voting for a change, because the things that are being enacted are making it hard for us to exercise our right as American citizens, because that's one of the rights that people have fought and died for, is that we will be able to vote. What I'm going to say is, it took long enough for, of course I'm going to start with black people. It took long enough for black people to be able to vote. And then it took long enough for women to be able to vote. So you got these two marginalized groups of people that had to, literally die for their rights. For their rights. That's already guaranteed by the Constitution. And these guys call what he said a tirade because they don't want people to be able to vote, because their guy lost the election fair and square. People went out to vote. I'm disappointed in the Republican Party, a party that's supposed to be for the people. And I wish they would just come out and say what people that they are for. And I wish that the people who stormed the Capitol in an attempt to overthrow our government, and I wish the people who would be at these mega rallies and say the things that they say, I wish they really understood that the people 45 cares most about is not them. He likes to hear their adoration and their adulation and their what's the C word? Not that word. But he likes to be patted on the back a lot. That's very needy. I wish they would hear what he says during a speech when he was running for president. He talked about the type of people that he liked, And one of the people that he mentioned was the uneducated, and he said, I really like the uneducated, or I really love the uneducated, something like that. And I'm listening like, what? So, at any rate, I like I said, I watched the video, the press conference that Biden gave about his desire to help change the voting laws and to encourage people to do what they need to do to be able to vote, and then to because the power is in our hands, and with these voter suppression laws, they're trying to take the power out of the hands of the people and put it into the hands of a certain of basically the Republican Party, or I'm just sick of race right now. It's tiresome that we still have to talk about this stuff, that we still have to fight for something that's supposed to be guaranteed to us. Before I get too far, so I didn't see a rant, I didn't see a tirade or anything. I just saw him saying, folks, and I like the way he talks, folks, we need to make sure that these laws are either overturned or we get these laws off the books. So whatever needs to be done to keep these laws from hurting the people who benefit the most from being able to express their desires through the vote. And that's all I'm gonna say, because it's just upsetting that we have to have this conversation over something that's supposed to be so basic. Okay, I'm not quite done. So because and the trippy part is that it's been a thing throughout American history. There's always been something coming up about people's right to vote being tampered with. I'm checking my grammar. Being tampered with. Every election we hold is supposed to reflect the will of the people. We're in a country where the majority rules. So everybody who goes out to vote, if there's a law that a whole bunch of people like, or a person that a whole bunch of people like, that law, that person is gonna get put into office or made a law. If a person is not liked, they're not gonna win. Or if the law is not liked, or the policy or whatever, it won't pass because the people have voted on these things. And whichever way it goes, even if it's by one, somebody's got to lose. You can't, well, apparently you can, because that's what they're doing. You shouldn't be able to change the rules just because they don't suit you. I've worked with children, and I would play like zombie with them, just like, I'm gonna get you kind of thing. And there would inevitably, kids are running, screaming, don't get me. When I would get close to a couple of them, suddenly, I'm not playing, I don't want to play. And as soon as I walk away, you can't get me. It's like, look, you can't have it both ways. Either you're playing the game or you're not. If you're not playing, then I'm not chasing you. So, roll that into these elections. Either you want a free society or you don't. You claim you do, but the things that you do, and I mean you as in these lawmakers who are enacting things just because their guy lost.
One of the things that gets me the most about all of these voter suppression laws that we're seeing over the last few weeks is the timing of it all. You see that it directly correlates to 45 losing the last election. as May mentioned, it's a situation where we have individuals that don't like the outcome. So now we're going to change the rules. And it does remind me of children oftentimes, because it's like you're playing a game. And I remember when I was a kid, we would play these games, like just made up games, you know, not even like Monopoly or anything. Just outside, you know, it could be like pirates. It could be anything, right? And as we're playing the game and everything, if something happens that one of us didn't like, we'd say, oh no, you can't do that. New rule, new rule. And then we would like make up a rule. And that's what our government feels like these days. They don't like something, so then they just make up a rule. There are a few, but half of them had to do directly with absentee voting, which I think is pretty clear on who those laws are aimed at. So there's a quote that I absolutely love. Well, a discussion, I should say, from this movie called Master and Commander. And it's between Russell Crowe's character, who is Captain Jack. He's played by Russell Crowe. And then the other character, played by Paul Bettany, is the ship's doctor, Stephen. And they basically get into an argument, discussion regarding rules of order aboard this ship. An individual has committed an offense, and as the ship's captain, he has ordered him to be flogged or whipped or beaten, or however you want to say it. And they kind of get into this discussion about the rules of order or the rules of punishment, right? So during this discussion, Russell Crowe's character, Captain Jack, says men must be governed, oftentimes not wisely, but governed nonetheless. Paul Bettany's character, who is the ship's doctor, responds, that is the excuse of every tyrant in history, from Nero to Bonaparte, right? So when I start thinking about tyranny, and it's directly related to the last 5 years that we've seen in America. We were essentially governed by a tyrant. And I don't know a more polite way to say it. There is a quote from a French philosopher named Montesquieu. I totally butchered the French pronunciation, Montesquieu. Montesquieu. By a French philosopher, Montesquieu. And he says, the harshest tyranny is that which acts under the protection of legality and the banner of justice. And I'm reminded of that quote because looking at the voter suppression laws that we're seeing, that's the only way that I think it can be described. It is pure, harsh tyranny that we're facing. As May mentioned, you're talking about fundamental rights, something that should be inherent as an American citizen. You should have the right to vote. And it's a shame that after all of the years that we've seen with individuals, you know, from the suffragettes to the civil rights movement, and here we are in 2021 and we're still having a conversation about the right to vote and what that means, what it looks like, and who it benefits or serves. So back to the caption that we saw, Biden tirade. Anyone who watched it knows that old man Joe is incapable of really going on a tirade. And they use this poisonous language for a reason, and that is to instill doubt and fear, right? But it's important that you are aware of your local elections. It's important that you know what's going on in the world and what's going on in your own backyard, because this is how laws like this get passed because you're caught unawares. Most people only pay attention to the presidential election, but you have to pay attention to your local elections, you know, all the way down to your like homeowners association. You should know what's going on. That way you truly have a voice. You have a voice in deciding what these people do, what is put on the books, what is passed into law. But if you're not there to raise your hand and vote, and as you see from these voter suppression laws, they're trying to make it very difficult for you to be able to do that. But just like the obstacles of old that we've had to overcome, we will overcome this one too. And regardless of what they try to pull, we will be out just as we have been the last 4 years and the 4 years before that. We will be out in droves and we will make our voices heard.
Just go ahead and say it. So that then we'll know, we'll say, okay, yeah, that's what I thought you meant, and then we can go from there. But instead, you're trying to subvert justice and democracy by passing these laws. See, now I'm doing the tirade. This is a tirade, not what Biden did. He did not tirade anything, if tirade can be used as a verb. So do what you got to do to vote, and then get those people out of the office who are messing things up for everybody. Part of the things about this country is that not everybody is going to be happy. But fairness is not making sure that everybody is happy. Fairness is making sure that everybody is able to do the things that they need to do without, if any, too much hindrance. That's fairness. Just because you don't get your way all the time doesn't mean that things aren't fair. Okay, now I'm gonna stop because I would say I'm over it, but something's gonna happen next week and I'm like, God dang it, people, come on, get it together. All right, thank you for watching. Like, subscribe. Oh, and feel free to press the notification button so that you can be aware when our videos drop.
See, that was a tirade. That being said, this is Angel with Unbasic Black. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe, and let us know what you think. Have you heard of any voter suppression laws in your state that you thought were fair or unfair? Let us know in the comments below. We want to hear from you. Thanks for watching.